You've been lied to about power. Not the obvious kind, not the loud, aggressive, in-your-face control. I'm talking about the kind you don't even notice. The kind that makes you feel like you're the problem. And if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused, drained, slightly smaller, this is going to hit harder than you expect. Because what if I told you? The most dangerous people in your life don't control you by force. They control you by making you choose what they want. Yeah, read that again. They don't push you. They design you. And most people never even realize it's happening. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. If you've ever stayed quiet when you wanted to speak, if you've ever over-explained yourself to someone who barely listens, if you've ever felt like you're constantly proving your worth, you're already inside it. And no, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been playing a game. You didn't even know had rules. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because the longer you stay in that loop, the more your brain adapts to it. You start thinking, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I should just try harder. And that's not self-awareness. That's conditioning. But wait, it gets worse. Because the people who create these dynamics, they don't look toxic. They look normal. Sometimes even charming. Supportive at first. Understanding at first. And that's the hook. Because your brain doesn't attach to pain immediately. It attaches to reward. Small doses of validation. Tiny moments of approval. Just enough to keep you chasing it. It's a dopamine loop. You get a little attention, then it's taken away. You try harder, hoping to get it back. And every time you almost get it, your brain lights up. That's not connection. That's addiction. But here's the part no one tells you. You don't get trapped because of them. You get trapped because of how your brain tries to protect you. Yeah, that part stings. Your brain hates uncertainty. So when someone is unpredictable, hot and cold, kind one moment, distant the next, your brain doesn't walk away. It leans in, trying to solve the pattern, trying to win the consistency. And that's where most people mess up. They think effort will fix unpredictability. But effort is exactly what keeps you stuck. Let me say that again. The more you try to fix it, the deeper you fall into it. And this is where it flips. Because you might think, okay, so I just need to be stronger, more confident, more assertive. No, that's surface level thinking. Invisible influence doesn't work on your confidence. It works on your perception. It slowly rewires how you interpret reality. So instead of asking, why are they treating me like this? You start asking, what am I doing wrong? And that shift, that tiny shift, that's the trap. Because now, you're not analyzing them anymore. You're analyzing yourself. Constantly. Overthinking every word, every reaction, every silence. And while you're stuck in your head, they stay in control. Effortlessly. But here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Some part of you already knows this. You felt it. That moment when something felt off. But you ignored it. That gut feeling. That quiet voice saying, this isn't right. And you pushed it down. Why? Because clarity is scary. Clarity means change. And change means loss. Loss of connection. Loss of familiarity. Loss of what you hoped it could be. So instead, you negotiate with reality. You downplay things. You justify behaviors. You give chances again and again and again. But every time you do that, you send a message. Not to them. To yourself. This is acceptable. And your brain listens. And adapts. And slowly, your standards shift. Your boundaries blur. Your identity bends. And you don't even notice it happening. Until one day, you don't recognize yourself anymore. And that's the real cost. Not the arguments. Not the stress. But the quiet erosion of who you are. But wait. Here's the twist no one expects. The people who master invisible influence. They don't need to dominate you. They just need you to doubt yourself. That's it. Because once you doubt your perception, you start relying on theirs. And now, they don't have to control your actions. They control your interpretation. They decide what's normal, what's too much, what's reasonable, and you follow, without even realizing it. That's power. But here's where it gets interesting. Because once you see it, it stops working the same way. Not completely, but enough to change the game. And this is your first real weapon. Awareness isn't passive. It's disruptive. The moment you notice the pattern, you interrupt it. Even if you don't act immediately, you've already broken the illusion. But don't get comfortable yet. Because awareness alone isn't enough. This is where most people mess up again. They see the pattern, but they don't change their behavior. They still engage the same way. Still explain. still chase clarity, still try to fix the dynamic. And that just resets the loop. So here's the shift. The real one. Stop trying to win the game. Start refusing to play it. Yeah, that's different. Because invisible influence feeds on reaction, on engagement, on emotional investment. The more you respond, the more data they get, the more they adjust, the more control they gain. So what happens when you don't react the same way? When you don't explain, don't justify, don't chase? Something strange happens. The pattern breaks. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped feeding it. And this is where your power actually is. Not in controlling them, but in controlling your participation. But let's be real. This isn't easy. Because your brain is still wired for connection. Still craving resolution. Still wanting things to make sense. So when you pull back, it feels wrong. Unnatural. Almost like you're losing. But you're not. You're detoxing. From a pattern that trained you to seek validation. From someone who benefits from keeping you uncertain. And that discomfort? That's the withdrawal. Not from them, but from the illusion of control you thought you had. And this is where most people quit. They go back. Because clarity feels colder than confusion. Because uncertainty feels safer than acceptance. But if you push through that phase, something shifts. You stop overanalyzing. You stop personalizing everything. You start seeing behavior without needing to decode it. And that's when you realize something brutal. It was never that complicated. You just made it complicated because you were emotionally invested, and they relied on that. But now, you're different. You pause instead of reacting. You observe instead of absorbing. You decide instead of defaulting. And suddenly, the same behaviors that once confused you become predictable, almost boring. And here's the final shift, the one that changes everything. Invisible influence only works when you're trying to be understood. Yeah, think about that. The moment you stop needing them to understand you, you become harder to manipulate. Because now, you're not explaining yourself to gain approval. You're expressing yourself and leaving it there. No chasing, no convincing, no overthinking, just clarity. And that energy, it changes everything. Because people who rely on control, they don't know how to handle someone who doesn't need validation. It disrupts their entire strategy. And suddenly, they either escalate or disengage. Both give you information. Both give you clarity. And clarity is the one thing they were trying to keep from you. So if this is hitting a little too close, if you're thinking of someone right now, if certain moments are replaying in your head, don't ignore that. Because you already see it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The only question now is, what are you going to do with that awareness? Because going back to not knowing, that's not an option anymore. And if this made you think of someone, you already know who needs to hear this.